On today's show, rookie camp and training camp dates have been set, and Alex Ovechkin eyes his return to the district.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan HolmI. I've covered the Capitals for the past 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, I want to thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, Alex Ovechkin eyes his return back to DC, entering into his 21st season in the league. Is this going to be his final season? And what is the latest? I'll talk about that a bit later. We're going to talk about prospects to watch at camp. And I think that is something that you're really going to want to circle as the Capitals are leaning into the youth more than we have seen in years. Exciting storylines surrounding the Capitals. But just to get it going here, they have announced rookie camp and training camp timeline. So we're kind of heading in that direction. A true harbinger of the fall is, well, when is Alex Ovechkin coming back to Washington in the rookie and training camp schedule that you can almost smell the fall. You can almost see the leaves falling from the trees. It is an exciting time to be a hockey fan, and more specifically, a Capitals fan. So what did we learn today is the Capitals have officially announced the rookie camp and main training camp schedule. The rookie camp runs September 12th through September 15th. It's going to be at Navy's McMullen Hockey Arena in Annapolis, Maryland. And it's one of those places, if you've never been out there, it's a really cool venue for this kind of thing. And how it's going to work is the goalies hit the ice first at 10:30 a.m., then the full team practice from 11 to 12:30. Now, one thing to note here is there's no skate on September 13th. So if you're going to show up, really the days to watch are the 12th, 14th, and 15th. But like I say, a prime opportunity for you to see some young talent within the Capitals organization. Faces that will change the outlook of this team for years to come, as you are starting to see, and we have seen players peel away that have been the pillars of this team for years. And, you know, as I've talked about, this very well could be Alex Ovechkin's, John Carlson, Trevor Van Riemsdyk last season with the camp. But the main event, that's when the main training camp opens at MedStar Ice Complex on September 18th. And that's also going to be Media Day, and that's one of the days that I look forward to, as you can expect interviews, sound bites, and the first real look at the line combos. I will caution you, however, if you know Spencer Carberry, not to read too much into them, right? As we know that he is prone to making changes, you know, that we saw last season. The line combos and deep pairings in the first game of the season, and those all got shook up in a hurry. But still, you're going to start to see the makings of chemistry between players that are new to this team, or maybe players that are playing in a different position. It is an exciting time of year here, that is for sure. Now, this schedule matters because, the big thing is it gives us a chance to see the young guys, and it gives those guys a head start before the veterans roll in. So, there's not that pressure of how am I playing in front of this player or that player. And the attention is squarely on the young talent. And I think that's huge because you're going to see how these players have developed, these names that you've heard of for quite some time. And I think that you'll start to get your first idea of, what kind of players they're going to turn into and kind of their trajectory. Are any of them going to be NHL bound, AHL bound? It's going to be an exciting storyline to follow. And they get 3 days to make an impression. So like I say, those are definitely dates to circle and something to monitor. And of course, I will have you guys covered the entire way on Locked On Capitals, because can you believe it? Hockey is right around the corner. And if you're a hockey fan, I got to think you are if you're watching or listening to this. It is getting closer. Very exciting. So, and the thing of it is the coaching staff as well. They are going to be watching these young players with an eagle eye. I'm talking Crystal and Miro, not to mention some of even the younger raw talent that will be there. But this is going to be a prime opportunity for those players that are trying to get put on the radar of the brass of the Capitals organization to really impress. And, there's players in there that might be sneaky players that are just going to get in there. I'm talking Ilya Protas. I have high hopes for him, and it's not just empty hopes. I mean, the proof's in the pudding of what we've seen from him. And that's going to be interesting thing to see where he lines up. Hershey, but is there a chance that, the ceiling on him is even higher? It is going to be a storyline to follow, that is for sure. Now, fast forwarding a bit more, the Caps open in Boston on September 21st against the Bruins at TD Garden. They're in Hershey on the 25th to take on the Flyers. Always cool to see an NHL club at Giant Center. And then October 2nd, they host Boston back at Cap One. So, yeah, the wheels are moving, and it's going to be hockey time sooner than any of us think. And, it's a good thing for me, because I think the Capitals still have a chip on their shoulder, as I think that, they had that early exit, early-ish. I mean, they made it to the second round. I'm not trying to diminish what they've done there, but I think that they had grander hopes just based on what we saw during the season. So it is going to be exciting. So hockey, like I said, is basically around the corner. And here's why I'm excited for the camp specifically. You get your first look at the next wave. And we got a chance to take a peek at Ryan Leonard in the latter part of last season. Already dipped his toes into the NHL last year. And this year's first round pick in Lyndon Lakovic. I've talked about as well a bit further out, but kind of a prototypical Capital, bigger frame, not intrinsically a fighter, but had a lot of responsibility playing on a less than stellar Moose Jaw team. So these guys are the future of this team. Again, Ryan Leonard is right there, right? We know that he is going to be on the Capitals. What kind of role is he going to take on? Is it going to be top six role or bottom six? In Lyndon Lakovic, I'm very excited, to be honest with you, to see how he plays with some really great talent. And the Caps are giving them an opportunity to make a statement to say, hey, this is the kind of play. These are the kind of numbers I can put up. Forget about your perception of what kind of player I am. I am going to go out there and prove it. So those are the things. How many of you people plan on going out to any of these rookie practices, those kind of things? I know the ones especially at MedStar, that kind of thing. Those are open to the public. So if you get an opportunity to do it, this is a good chance to see a lot of the young talent within the organization. Some of it's just really, truly, I think, ready to take it to the next level. All right. So coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Alex Ovechkin's triumphant return. We have a date. When is that date? I'll discuss straight ahead. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That is why Monarch Money is so important. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you're put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And the thing I like about it is you can take a peek at what you're spending your money on wisely and where you could use some work on your spending. And also, if you have a significant other, well, you can help plan your financial future together. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So in segment 2 here, we're talking about the big guy himself, Alex Ovechkin, as he prepares to make his way back to DC. And how excited are you? Another guy that I think has a lot to prove, and you might be, well, what does he have to prove? Look at what he did last year. The whole Gretzky thing. I mean, the guy's on fire. I think that he is all in on a Stanley Cup win, and I think that some people might think that's crazy. Why didn't the Capitals make more moves? But I think Alex Ovechkin is motivated in earnest this season to get a lot done, because this could be his final season in the NHL. So let's dive into that in segment 2. And Alex Ovechkin is coming back to DC. Reports say he'll be back in town around September 5th. And just let that sink in here. 21 seasons in the league. 21 in the NHL. Can you believe it? It's like everything else in life. Time flies by so quick. It seemed like your kids were young one minute and now they're older the next. Same things goes for Alex Ovechkin. Seemed like just the other day that he was that over-the-top, ostentatious guy in the All-Star game with his burning hockey stick and the big cowboy hat. And now Alex Ovechkin is closing in on his 21st season and his 40th year on the planet. And is he coming back for a farewell tour? He is now the NHL's all-time goal-scoring champion. 897 regular season goals with 900 in shooting distance. That's insane. And according to his trainer back in Russia, he said, "Be ready. A beast is coming." Can you feel it? Can you feel that beast coming? It is exciting to think about that. That I think that he has adjusted his training as he's gotten older. And he said this as much. He said that, I train different now than I did back when I was 27. And part of you's like, duh. I mean, you're a lot older, right? But it's what's smart about it is I think that there is an importance done on training in a different way than there was years ago. It's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. This is how you train for everyone. Alex Ovechkin has a certain training regimen that has given him great results. The very fact that he was able to have a knockout season last year at 39, well, that speaks volumes of exactly what I'm talking about. But his attitude, if that doesn't get you fired up as a Capitals fan, if that does not get your blood flowing, I don't know what will. Because if Ovi is showing up in beast mode, this team got a whole lot more dangerous. And I think that is the case, that he's ready to take this team on his shoulders and say, come on, guys, we're going to win another cup here. Also on the ice in all of this is Andrew Crystal and Ryan Leonard, this young talent. And there's a very distinct possibility that I believe that Andrew Crystal will be joining the team this year. Early take here, second line left wing. I think that's the case. Ryan Leonard's a bit more of a question mark. I think at least to start the season, he'll be that third line right wing. But hey, maybe he really pops in camp and he's playing top 6 minutes. It's an exciting thing to think about. 30 goals at Boston College last year. We know he signed that entry-level contract in March, jumped straight into the NHL lineup, and scored his first goal in short order. Now, the kid, he's got confidence that goes right through the roof, if you know what I'm talking about. And that's a good thing, right? That, I mean, if I've talked about this before with him on the show, you can be confident, you can be cocky. Sometimes I think being cocky is misconstrued with confidence. If you have the stats and the numbers to back it up, then you be as confident and cocky and have all the swagger in the world if you got the numbers to back it up. But like I said, Crystal is another name to watch as well. Smaller guy, but his hockey IQ and shot make him dangerous. And I'll just say that when you walk into the rink right now and you see the vets trickling in, prospects skating hard, and Ovi coming back soon, it's exciting. A lot of this video, the beat writers cover, they'll post them up online there. And I've got a chance to take quite a bit a peek at some different videos, plus people have sent me some as well. I appreciate that as well. Again, if you have any video footage, I would sure appreciate it. Just send it to me, DM me on Twitter, or contact me on YouTube, whatever the case. And if you could send that in, I sure would appreciate it, because I scour over as much video footage as I possibly can. But if you have some that you could share with me, I sure would appreciate it, because it is fun, isn't it, to watch this team kind of form. And it's forming, and it's almost, you can see, preparing itself for the post Ovechkin era. And that's the exciting thing. Alex Ovechkin coming here soon, entering into his 21st season. His trainer said that he's a beast right now, just ready to go. And then you got the makings of the next wave here, right? Crystal, Ryan Leonard off the top of my head there, that it's an exciting time right now. And I know I've mentioned that quite often, but if you're not excited, you really should be, because I think the Capitals are going to take the Metro, the Eastern Conference, by storm. And I think the Caps are pushing all their chips in for one last big push, if that is the case, for Alex Ovechkin. You know, you think to yourself, why didn't they go out and do more, right? And I think that's getting drawn into focus a little bit more with Alex Ovechkin and his final season. That, you know, it's a bit of a risky move, I guess I'm going to say. I'm feeling optimistic. Early take, I am feeling optimistic, but I mean, it is still prone to failure as well, right? That if you want to take a look at a prime example of last season with Hendrix Lapierre, well, he was slated to be that third line center. Turns out wasn't the case. That I hope, and I think I know pretty well, that Spencer Carberry has learned a lot about this team in his time here, that he is going to be able to judge. Let's talk about Crystal for a moment here, if he is in fact ready. And like I said, a lot will be determined at camp there, if he's good to go, whether it's on the Capitals or he thinks he needs a little bit more work to go down to Hershey. It's an exciting time to think about as well. And Ivan Mirshnyshenko, you got Sonny Milano, all these young guys, Ethan Frank, that are vying for limited roles. They're going to have to bring their A game if they in fact want to crack the roster in the fall. All right, so coming up here after the break, I'll talk about prospects to watch and some key stats that surround the Capitals. I'll discuss straight ahead. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays. And you take a look at it, your favorite team, whether it's the Commanders or the Ravens or whatever team you're following, open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game. All of a sudden, it got that much more exciting. So whether you're betting for your hometown team or you're betting for the lowly Browns, you have vested interest in all of the games with FanDuel. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. So in the final segment of the show today, we're talking about prospects to keep your eye on. And I've talked about a few of them already, but there are more. I'm also going to talk to you about some key stats that surround this team. And I think the player to dig into first here is Ryan Leonard. He is the headliner at the rookie camp. You know, when you go see a band, there's the opening bands and all that kind of thing. And then you see the main band, the main event. Well, I think that Ryan Leonard is the main event, the headliner at rookie camp. We remember first round pick in 2023, 30 goals at Boston College, Hockey East Player of the Week, and now he's hungry to take on a bigger role. Is it going to be top 6 minutes, bottom 6 minutes? The future is in his hands. And I want to be clear here, and I've talked about it as well, and I got to kind of correct myself or kind of recalibrate my thinking, is we don't want to judge Ryan Leonard too harshly by what we saw from him in the latter part of the season. He went right from the NCAA at Boston College right into the NHL and into the playoffs. And, you know, even the greatest players out there, that's a lot to handle, right? And I think that to understand that and to kind of limit your expectations even going into next season, I think is a fair thing, because I think it's going to be a slow build, but make no mistake about it, I think that he is going to take to it like a fish to water. I really do think that's the case. And like I say, I think at the camp, you're going to see what he ultimately has in the tank. You know, when he signed, he didn't look out of place. You know, he didn't, find the back of the net on a regular basis. But when he did play, he chipped in and made a good impact. Then the new piece, the new shiny toy within the Capitals organization is Lyndon Lakovic, drafted 27th overall this year, and a lot of hope surrounding him. And Ross Mahoney, I think, has a special place in his heart for Moose Jaw there. And he was asked to take on a bigger role on a Moose Jaw team that was less than stellar, shall we say. So Lyndon Lakovic, a big player, prototypical Capital at some point. I think he's still got to grow into that frame a little bit, and more of a skater, that kind of thing. His strength, he's not necessarily a tough guy, but, you know, if he could grow into that, that would be something. Has a pretty sweet release as well. Like I say, drafted 27th overall, big bodied, 6'4", and I think that, you know, with these guys, they try to adhere to, you know, modified diets, protein, hitting the gym hard. Like I've talked about, if you think back to when Tom Wilson first came in the league, he was big, but he's definitely grown into that frame. And was a captain, leadership qualities, put up strong numbers, brings leadership in size. Lyndon Lakovic checks a lot of the boxes. But he's a ways out, right? I would, you know, don't have any hopes, of course, of him joining the team right out of the gate, but I don't think he's as far out as many people first projected. Now, let's zoom out a little bit and look at team stats from last season, because this matters, and it'll kind of give you an idea on at least where the Capitals are headed, at least roughly. They finished 51, 22, and 9 with 111 points. Quite something. The season before that, the last team to qualify for a playoff spot, the first this last season. And that was, they were first in the Eastern Conference. We know they won the Metro. And, you know, advanced analytics, 3.63 goals per game, one of the top offenses in the league. And here's the kicker. 7 players scored 20 or more goals. And that's what you're talking about. You know, there's small things that I think the Capitals need to tweak, but there's not a lot. I'm here to tell you that, you know, we can say, well, it wasn't enough to beat Carolina, and touche. I hear that. So I do they need to add some players? Yes. But when you look at the big picture, 30,000 foot view, the Capitals did a really good job. They do. I mean, to be clear here, I'm not trying to give them a pass. They do have to find a way to beat the likes of the Hurricanes, those kind of teams. But with 7 players scoring 20 or more goals, that's balance, that's depth. It wasn't just the stars. That's the big thing. For the longest time, it was the marquee names on the Capitals that scored all the goals. You saw players take big step forward. I'm talking Connor McMichael, Tom Wilson, Alexei Protas. In Alexei Protas' case, huge jump from what we've ever seen from him. Dylan Strome, the guy that stirs the drink on the first line, huge. And Pierre-Luc Dubois with his bounce back season with the Capitals, solidifying the second line, playing with Connor McMichael on the left side there, and either Alexei Protas or Tom Wilson. Pierre-Luc Dubois was a great addition, even though at the time it was met with quite a bit of skepticism. And Alexei Protas leading the team in plus minus at plus 40, elite two-way play. The Capitals had it in spades. So when you add Leonard's goal-scoring touch and Crystal's creativity and Lakovic's physical presence at some point, I think he's going to grow into a physical player at some point just based on that frame. Might not. Might be a bit more of a finesse player, but I think that's the hope anyway. You're going to have a dynamic team. And if you think to yourself for a moment here, say Connor McMichael, which is I'm going to talk about here as well, is that Spencer Carberry said that Connor McMichael is going to hit the first crack at the third line center position. Should be surprising to no one. I think he's a clear favorite. I think that Hendrix Lapierre is going to have to bring it like he's never brought it before. But what I'm talking about here is if Connor McMichael goes from second line left wing to third line center, how dynamic of a second line would that be if you had Andrew Crystal on the left, Pierre-Luc Dubois in the center, and Ryan Leonard on the right wing? Wow. I mean, at least on paper, that is something to get you excited. And the future is looking bright for this team. Make no mistake about it, that they are in a much better position than, say, the Penguins, right? That a team that waited too long to make changes. And I understand that a lot of the changes that the Capitals made was based out of necessity, right? That there was the hope at one point that Nicholas Backstrom was going to return from that hip resurfacing procedure and was going to be a contributor. Wasn't the case. TJ Oshie was a guy that we found out had to have stem cells the last season that he played to even play hockey. That it was an aging team, and those players, were slowly starting to peel off there. That it's a good thing that the Capitals did great things at the draft, and they put them in the position that they're in. And it was a slow build, and they resisted the temptation that I know had to be out there. That I'm going to trade. Hey, what do you guys think about getting this, semi-marquee name for Andrew Crystal or Ryan Leonard or any of these guys? That Chris Patrick and Brian McClellan before him did the right thing by resisting temptation to go for the quote-unquote sure thing. And when I say sure thing, is a guy that has quite a resume, played in the league for 10 plus years, for example, that roughly what you're getting. They were able to say, like, yeah, I know. I don't want to do it, right? We've all been tempted with different things in our life. I respect the patience that the GMs of this team have had to, not go for the sure thing in favor of building a true arsenal for the future. And I think that ultimately that's what the Capitals have done, is they've built an arsenal for the future that this team, even post Ovechkin, I think in a lot of ways can be better than it is right now, if you can believe it. Exciting times, if you can't tell. I'm excited about the Capitals season. I hope you are too. The camp is right around the corner. Informal skates. We saw Marty Faravarti on the ice. All is well, or mostly everything is well in the world of the Capitals. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On NHL, as they have you covered 5 days a week. Available wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan HolmI, and I'll talk to you again next time.